How's it going, everybody? My name is Jack. I'm a commercial pilot and a flight instructor, and in today's Foreflight video, we're going to get into why map layers are important for your overall experience. I got a lot of comments on this from the last video, and I wanted to kind of make a video that addressed some of these, but also kind of went more in depth of why these matter and how your map layers are affecting your view on your iPad. So with that being said, let's get into it.
I'm Jack, a commercial pilot in CFI. Flying has always been a passion of mine, and I love being able to share that experience as a pilot and instructor for those who are curious about soaring through the sky. I hope you enjoy today's video, that you fasten your seatbelt, and that you enjoy the ride.
First off, I wanted to just say thank you guys so much for all of your comments in the last video and your support. This means a lot to me. I use Foreflight all the time and just want to help you out, so thank you so much for your comments. And secondly, I appreciate the support. You guys mean a lot to me. I don't do this because I feel like I want to do it. I do it because I want to help people, and I have knowledge that I know some people can use, as I was a student pilot once looking on YouTube to find answers. So with that being said, let's get into the video of why map layers are important. Now, I'm going to clarify that I already did a video on this, so I'm not going to get in detail with everything. If you want to go check out the video of all the map layers I just talked about, I'm going to link that and you can go back and look. But for today, we're going to just talk about the experience of what you actually are going to do with your Foreflight. And there's really two big things that Foreflight has with this, and it's really just about the way you fly. You go over here, you have your VFR sectionals, and you have your IFR sectionals. That's really what this video is highlighting. And the difference between the two, really I don't have to say it, is you're flying VFR versus if you're flying IFR, right? For VFR maps, you're going to get all of these airports with the airspaces. You're going to get the different colors for how high the terrain's going to be. And then you're also going to get topography mapping of, you know, where mountains are, where plains are, and then obviously where like the ocean is and everything. That's just kind of the basics with VFR. For IFR, you're going to get it a little different. If you are an IFR pilot, you already understand. If not, the basics of how this chart works is you're going to have your different routes, your different waypoints. You're obviously going to have airports, and you're going to have those waypoints you need to get in based on the approach and the departure procedures. You're also going to get the clearances that you would need to then type in, see where you're going to go on the map. And then just as a little bonus, Foreflight gave you the airspaces that are controlled, so not uncontrolled airspaces. The focus on this video is not about how these work. The focus on this video is why your view changes with Foreflight and what they have in here. And that's going to be the highlight, is how each of these map layers change your perspective on that. Because I got a few comments in the last video about the hazard advisor, with being able to see the altitudes and the elevations based on what's called the MSA, or the minimum safe altitude, as well as the ROCAs, the off-road obstacle clearance altitudes, and MOCAs for minimum obstacle clearance altitudes. Those are great things you can find on Foreflight, but what I'm going to highlight is how it's hard to use those with your flight and in iPad usage. I'll first kind of highlight the different layers. So really, the first thing we'll highlight is aeronautical, right? This is going to be the most important one I feel that you're going to use, because whether you're on an IFR chart or a VFR chart, automatically it gives you airspace and it gives you the airport maps that you need. And then if you're a premium subscriber to Foreflight, you can then zoom in and it's going to give you the diagram for the airport that you're zooming in on, right? It also does this for VFR. So you're going to get the exact same aeronautical information from that. The difference is it's going to be in a VFR look than IFR. So there's really nothing different about that. But what I will hit next is then how these different layers on top of aeronautical actually shift your perspective with Foreflight. And this is where it's very important to pay attention, because I ran into this issue a couple of times in flights where I would all of a sudden think, okay, I need to then, for example, check the radar. You know, let's say there's rain or storm coming in front of me, and then all of a sudden I realize, wait, what's the frequency for this airport, or what's going on over here? And I'm scrolling, I'm looking around. Obviously, there's really no rain or anything going on, but let's say we're flying over here, right? All of a sudden, I can't see the information of the airport because the radar is blocking it, right? That's kind of where this video is highlighting, is whatever layer you have on your map, it's going to do some sort of thing that'll either block your view or give you a new perspective that may not have everything on the map again. And so the first part of it is going to be just with what these are doing, right? Radar, I already gave you that example, right? If I were to go look and see at Watertown International Airport, right? If I were to take radar off here, you can clearly see we can get the ASOS, the information, the runways, and all of that. What you then run into is, like with radar, for example, you don't have that information anymore. You then have to actually click the airport and then go in and look and see what's going on. Obviously, you got the weather now, but that's kind of where the issues start coming in, is with these layers, you got to understand what's going to get blocked with your maps. Same thing goes for IFR, right? If I were to go to IFR low here, right, you have routes, right, by Syracuse and everything. You can see this waypoint pager here, right? You can't even see the rest of the route anymore. The only way you can see that route is if I were to program it, which I'll show you now. So here we go. I have a simple route already programmed from Pager to Bruin to the Watertown VOR ART. Obviously, you can see it both on the map and in your program flight plan with this button up here. But as soon as I were to say click radar, all of a sudden, you're not going to be able to see the route anymore. And some people think that bothers them, right? That's where you just got to look and see what your experience with Foreflight is and if you like that. If you don't, just know that stuff is going to get blocked as soon as you start putting it on your map. Another one that I got is the hazard advisor from people. And this is a great thing I wanted to highlight in this, because when you click hazard advisor, obviously you're going to still see stuff is on there. But then when you go down and you look at what happens here, automatically you can't tell what your altitudes are, or you can't tell what waypoint you're looking at, because it turns into yellow and red depending on the altitudes that you're at. That's why I use Hazard Advisor more than I do the IFR low charts for my altitudes. Is Hazard Advisor updates in real time. I don't have to just be looking or scrolling through to figure out what altitudes I know I'm going to be safe at, when I can just look and see it's yellow or it's red, knowing that I'm going to hit something. I can then just climb, looking at my iPad, naturally as I climb in real time, start to actually open up, versus if I wanted to know what the safe altitude was between, you know, let's say Rochester and Syracuse over here, I'd have to look for a long time to figure out and see where that altitude is. And that's not hard to do, right? You just got to look in the route and see. But if I was in a flight and I had, like, let's say 2 minutes before I was having to look outside again and verify I wasn't going to get in these clouds that were coming up ahead, I'm not going to have enough time to just scan and just look at a specific point in the chart sometimes, right? I'm going to need a tool that can just give it to me right then and there. And that's where Hazard Advisor comes into play, knowing that if I'm going to fly this route and I see yellow, I know I'm going to need to climb, so I'm going to ask ATC, hey, can I get a higher altitude? That's my philosophy on it, and you don't have to have the same philosophy. Everyone is always going to have a different opinion with it, and that's why I make these videos. Is I'm not trying to tell you, hey, do it this way. I'm just saying if you are going to use it, this is what's going to happen. So whether you're comfortable with it or not, I'm just showing you what Foreflight's going to do. So that's kind of what happens with these map layers, and it's going to be different for everyone. I kind of went into them in that last video I mentioned, so you can go back and look at that if you want. But then the next thing that we're going to talk about, and this is going to be for the premium subscribers of Foreflight, is going to be how plates affect your view. Let's stay at Syracuse, for example, right? Let's say we're on low IFR charts, right? We're shooting this ILS over here. I'm going to then go into Syracuse here and click the airport. Then I'll click procedure, and I'll look for the approaches for runway 28, and I'll just select the ILS 28 here, okay? This is going to do a few things, right? It's going to then put that on the map there for your plate, but then also it's going to give you a really cool tool that someone else mentioned in the last video with the highlighter. And this is another one that I wanted to kind of touch on, because there's two different ways you can use this tool. The first one is very easy. There's a button over here on the left. You click it, and you can just start drawing like this, right? Whoop-de-doo. That's kind of the cool thing about it. You can also just clear it if you don't like it, and there you go. The other way you can use the highlighter or the pen tool is when you actually go into your plates tab here, right? So in plates tab now with Syracuse, I'm going to go to the approach tab here, and I'm going to just click the ILS or localizer runway 28, right? The exact same plate that we had out there, but the difference is I can then actually highlight, pick and choose what I want to do in here, and then I could just, you know, go like that, or go like this, same thing. That automatically highlights on the plate here, which is great. But then it gets even better when you then go back, you click your procedure here, go back to that approach, put it on the map, and then look what happens. It then loads your highlights from what you did in your pages with the plates going onto the map, with now you can actually read it from both the plate section and the map. And it just transfers over, which is great. I don't use the highlighter usually on the map, and the only time I would ever really use it for the highlighter on the map is with like my VFR plan. So I'll kind of give you an example of that. when I use this with the pen tool here, right, you can draw which way you're going to go, which way you do this for like the pattern, for example. That's kind of like my realistic scenario, and it's great for that because you can then actually look and see real time where your airplane's at and then mark, like let's say you're here, right? If I were to click the tool, let's say I'm like right here, draw a little airplane, you can then mark how you would get into the airport for this runway and then draw it. And then in real time, it'll give you all the information that you need. That's what I use this tool for. What I don't use the tool for is just highlighting stuff on the map. Because if you look, you can already tell Syracuse is now covered and blocked out here with this tool. You can obviously change the opacity if you want to make it actually not that way. But then you got to run into this issue as well when you zoom out. Right, look how much bigger that gets on this scale with the pen tool being on the map itself, right? I'll zoom all the way out now. And you can see, if I were to just clear this whole flight plan up, it's going to be all in blue here. And that never leaves. Like I'm telling you, I had a highlight on like my map a long time ago, and I zoomed out and only caught it because of how big it was. And I was like, what is that doing here? And so what I ended up having to do is I ended up forgetting to clear it. So I just went here and cleared, and then my map was fixed. So if you don't like that, like me, that's where I just use it on the plates and I just pull it up for that. But if you use it for VFR flight and you want to just kind of have a direction of where to go, that's what I use it for. And you don't have to do it that way. That's the nice thing about Foreflight. It's so customizable to your needs that you can just literally click it and do what you want to do with it. But yeah, plates and diagrams. The other thing too that I didn't talk about, and I'll kind of touch on briefly if we go back to Syracuse here, we put the plate on for what's it called? Let's just say now the taxi diagram here, right? Foreflight's got its own diagram. It's going to give you the taxi diagram like this, which is cool. But if you're using it for like VFR and stuff, again, it kind of blocks things on the map, which isn't a big deal, right? If you don't need to worry about reading stuff, why not? Go ahead and use it. But if you like reading stuff from the map and you don't want the plate to show up there, you can easily go into settings and disable it. And so that's why I highlight this, is your map layers on the map matter with how you want to view it. And when you go back and want to customize it in flight, for example, and then all of a sudden you can't read what's going on, right, with that radar, that hazard visor, you're going to spend more time worrying about your iPad than flying the airplane. And I've had students struggle with that. And so I've had to sit down with them for like 30 minutes after our flight just to kind of go through these things and why they happen. And so that's where I'm just making this video to warn you guys in flight, if you have this scenario where this radar all of a sudden gets rainy and you can't see the map, that's why. So it's easy to recognize it on the ground than in the air, and that's why this video is really important, is it highlights how you can actually fix that and change it up for your next flight when you don't have to deal with that issue anymore. I kind of talked a lot and jumbled in a lot of different places, and I'm going to just kind of wrap it up and summarize that this app itself is a customizational experience, right? You buy not just an app, you buy a tool that you can make yourself, which is really cool. And I can talk about more of this in a different video, but there's a lot of different things that I haven't touched on just yet with Foreflight. And the nice thing about it is the software is so open that you can literally add stuff in that you would not expect, which is the really cool thing with just literally scrolling through it and sitting through all the different features, right? Talked a little bit about it in documents with check ride binders here. You can go ahead and rearrange all the information you need, which is really cool. You can also upload documents and have them on the fly with your information. It also goes into logbook here with all your hours. It's overall just a customizational app that you can have for your aviation experience. And with Foreflight, you're not investing in just charts, you're investing in a lot of information that the FAA also publishes and gives you for free all in one spot, which is really cool. So getting to know this platform is really just knowing how you want to fly and then customizing it on your iPad to where your preferences are the way you want them to be. They leave a lot of it open-ended so that you have that experience to customize it the way you want to. And once you understand that, this platform can be really good and useful the way you want it to be. So yeah, with that being said, I've used this app for almost 5 years in all of my 1,500 hours of flight time, and this thing has done me amazing things when I customize it the way that I wanted to. And you guys can do the exact same thing with Foreflight. You can choose how you want to make it, how you want to upload stuff, and then how your preferences are set when you actually go in and talk about what you want to do with your flight, which is really cool. And I can make another future video on that and just some of the cool customization settings you may not understand. So if you did like this video and you want to see more, you can go down below and click subscribe, like this video too if you enjoyed it. I also have other content on other places that you can look at too with my Instagram. You can go check that out as well. And then finally, I had a QR code in this video, but I'm going to put it up here again. The last one expired for some reason, so I had to get a new one. But I just launched my study service on my website that you can get customization training for whatever you need, right? If you have something that you're struggling with and you didn't get the questions answered with your CFI, you can easily book a session, literally outline everything you need worked on, and you can get all the answers from someone who's got the experience, who's done all the research, and then can present it and give it all to you in one place, which is something I wish I had and I'm now giving to you guys as a tool. I also just launched a new study service. It's a Foreflight dedicated one, where if you want a customized Foreflight where I can then help you and guide you through all of the things that I've talked about in some of these videos, but also some things that I haven't talked about that I leave for my in-person students, I'm now offering that online if you want to book your session with that QR code I left up, as well as the one I'm going to leave on this side here. You can go check out my website, book your session, and I've got 2 codes that you can use. The first one is use code FIRST. That's going to be 50% off any session you want to do, even if it's Foreflight. You can do other stuff as well with it. And then the second thing is, for a limited time only, I'm going to be leaving a code that will give you 50% off just a Foreflight session. And this code is literally Foreflight. So use that code within the next couple of months. You'll get 50% off your Foreflight session. And this session can be whatever you want it to be. It could be explaining how the platform works, why I love it, and why you should get it. Or more or less just, hey, how do I format these documents to do a check ride binder? Or how can I get you to help me understand certain things with my next aviation flight? Let me know. Book your session. I'd be happy to work with you and make it as customized as you'd want it to be. So that being said, thank you so much for the support. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. See ya!